The moment you let go, everything gets better. Peace begins where control ends. Sometimes the peace we crave doesn't come with effort. It comes when we stop forcing everything to go our way. In today's video, we're diving deep into what it really means to let go of control of fear of timelines and why this quiet act of surrender is one of the most powerful steps toward mental clarity and emotional freedom. If you've ever felt stuck between holding on and burning out, this is your reminder that healing isn't always about doing more. It's often about trusting more. Through psychology, introspection, and deep reflection, we'll explore how to move from tension to alignment, from fear down to self-trust. This is not just a mindset shift. It's a return to who you were before the world told you who to be. Stay with us until the end. You may just walk away, seeing your past, your relationships, and yourself through an entirely new lens. When you stop forcing things, peace quietly arrives. There is a certain type of peace that doesn't make a loud entrance. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It shows up quietly like sunlight slipping through the blinds at dawn. And strangely, it often arrives right after you stop trying so hard. You spend so much time pushing, proving, planning, chasing. You think that if you just try hard enough, care enough, hold on, tight enough, things will finally fall into place. But what if it's the very act of holding on that's pushing everything away? There's a rhythm to life that cannot be manipulated. You can't beat it into submission. When you try to force your way forward, life pushes back. Not because it's cruel, but because it's already flowing in a direction you're resisting. Sometimes you don't need to speed up. You need to step aside. Letting go feels unnatural because we've been conditioned to believe that success equals control, that love equals possession, that effort equals worth. So we grip, we chase, we exhaust ourselves. And in doing so, we lose connection with the present. But the present is where everything real happens. When you let go of the need to control every outcome, you begin to notice things again. The way someone looks at you when they're not being judged. The small acts of kindness that happen when no one is keeping score. You begin to see others not as obstacles or validators, but as people moving through their own quiet storms. That realization softens you. And in that softness, peace begins to arrive. Not because life became easier, but because you stopped fighting it. Life's rhythm. And why the harder you hold, the more you lose. There is an invisible rhythm to everything around us. From the changing seasons to the rise and fall of relationships, life moves in cycles. It breathes, it contracts and expands. But many of us have been taught to distrust that natural rhythm. We are told to intervene to stay in control, to never stop striving. So we tighten our grip, convinced that effort will secure the outcome we want. But in doing so, we often interfere with the very flow that was already working in our favor. You may have felt it before. The moment you stop forcing a conversation, it flows better. The moment you stop chasing someone, they return. The moment you stop obsessing over a goal, a new opportunity appears. This is not magic. It is alignment. The energy you carry begins to match the openness of life itself. But when we operate from fear, we close off. We try to manipulate timing, people, results. And in that resistance, we miss what is already here. Understanding this rhythm allows us to interact with others differently. You begin to realize that not everyone who pulls away is abandoning you. Sometimes they are aligning with their own inner pace. Sometimes silence is not rejection, but reflection. When you understand this, your relationships become lighter. You stop reading everything as personal. You become more patient, more grounded. You no longer demand constant validation because you start to trust the timing of your own life and respect the timing of others. Letting go of the urge to control is not easy. It requires trust, humility, and deep self-awareness. But once you feel the rhythm and stop fighting it, life becomes less about force and more about flow. And in that flow, connection happens naturally. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. One of the most common misunderstandings about letting go is the belief that it means giving up, that stepping back is the same as surrendering to failure. But letting go is not about abandoning effort. It is about releasing attachment to outcomes you cannot force. It is a conscious shift from desperation to trust, from tension to clarity. It is not weakness. In many cases, it is the most courageous move you can make. We are conditioned to believe that if we stop pushing, we will fall behind. That if we ease up, someone else will take what we wanted. So we grip harder. We micromanage. We exhaust ourselves trying to bend life to fit our timeline. But in the process, we lose sight of what truly matters. Letting go invites us to move with intention, not obsession. It allows us to act from alignment, not anxiety. You can still want something deeply and not chase it. You can still care without clinging. Letting go means you are no longer depending on external validation to feel okay. It means you trust yourself enough to step back and let life reveal itself without needing to control every detail. This applies not only to goals, but also to people. Sometimes letting go of control in a relationship allows it to breathe, to grow, or to reveal what was never there to begin with. True letting go doesn't mean you stop showing up. It means you show up differently, with openness instead of demand, with awareness instead of fear. Letting go allows room for surprises, for grace, for new understanding. It's not about losing hope. It's about making space for something real to take its place. When silent expectations become invisible chains, not all pressure is loud. Some of it whispers quietly in the background of our lives, shaping our thoughts, our choices, our relationships. These are the expectations we rarely question, expectations about who we should be, how fast we should grow, how others should treat us, how love should feel. They are planted early and reinforced by culture, family, and media. Over time, they wrap around us like invisible chains, and we begin to live not from who we are, but from who we think we are supposed to be. You expect the relationship to move faster, so you ignore its natural rhythm. You expect your friend to always understand, so you don't communicate clearly. You expect a certain career to fulfill you, so you overlook what truly energizes you. Expectations, when rigid, become walls between us and reality. They prevent us from truly seeing people as they are and life as it is. Instead of responding to what's real, we react to what's missing from our mental script. This is where many relationships break down, not from a lack of love, but from the weight of unspoken rules. We want people to read our minds, to fit our narrative, to behave in ways that match the roles we've assigned them. But humans are not roles. They are complex, evolving, often unpredictable, and the more we try to box them in, the more they pull away. Letting go of expectations does not mean lowering your standards. It means replacing assumption with curiosity. It means seeing others with fresh eyes, giving them space to be themselves, not just who you hope they would be. In doing so, you liberate not only them, but yourself. You move from pressure to presence, from frustration to connection. Don't mistake effort for love when fear wears the mask of care. There is a subtle but powerful difference between love and attachment, though they often feel the same. Love is expansive. It allows room for freedom, growth, and individuality. Attachment, on the other hand, is driven by fear. Fear of being alone, of not being enough, of losing something we believe we need to survive. And when that fear hides behind the language of love, it becomes difficult to recognize. We tell ourselves we're trying, that we're holding on because we care. But sometimes what looks like effort is really just fear in disguise. You can text every day, make sacrifices, show up constantly, and still not be loving. Because if those actions are rooted in anxiety or a need for control, they stop being acts of love and become acts of self-protection. True love doesn't cling. It doesn't demand or manipulate. It gives with openness and accepts with grace. It allows others to show up as they are, not as who we need them to be. This confusion between love and fear is common in relationships. We are often praised for how much we give, how hard we try, how loyal we remain. But rarely are we asked to examine why we are giving so much. Is it from abundance or from emptiness? Are we offering love or bargaining for safety? Many of us were taught that love must hurt, that it must be proven through sacrifice. But real love is not a transaction. It's not about earning closeness. It's about sharing presence. When you begin to separate love from fear, everything changes. You start to recognize what feels nourishing and what feels depleting. You no longer chase people just to feel wanted. You learn to love in ways that are soft, secure, and free. And in doing so, you stop begging for connection and start becoming a space where real love can grow. Letting go is an act of inner strength. Letting go is often misunderstood as weakness, passivity, or emotional numbness. But in truth, it requires a kind of strength that is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted. It takes courage to release something your heart still wants. It takes clarity to recognize when holding on is doing more harm than good. And it takes trust to believe that what is meant for you will not need to be forced to stay. In a world that praises effort and control, choosing to let go can feel counterintuitive. We are taught to fight for what we want, to never back down, to prove our worth through persistence. But not every battle is worth fighting. Some things are not meant to be won. Some paths are not aligned with who you are becoming. And sometimes strength looks like walking away. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring for yourself. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means releasing the grip. It means no longer defining your peace by outcomes you cannot control. It means stepping out of the cycle of proving and performing and into a place of presence and trust. This is not easy. It is a deep emotional reset, and it often comes with grief. But within that space, something powerful begins to grow. Self-respect, self-trust, emotional clarity. You begin to show up differently, not because you are cold, but because you are clear. Not because you are closed, but because you are grounded. Letting go is not the absence of care. It is the expression of self-worth. And it is one of the strongest choices you can ever make. When silence forces you to face yourself, there is a moment after letting go that feels almost unbearable. A silence settles in not just around you, but inside you. The distractions you once clung to are gone. The noise of chasing, fixing, proving has faded. And in that stillness, you are left with someone you may have been avoiding all along yourself. It is in this space that many people feel lost, not because they have nothing, but because they are finally without the illusions they used to lean on. Facing yourself is not always peaceful. It can feel like grief. You begin to notice the ways you abandoned yourself for approval, how often you stayed quiet just to be accepted, how deeply you confused validation with love. These realizations do not come with comfort. They come with discomfort, with vulnerability. But they are also the beginning of awakening. When you can sit in silence and stay rather than run, you begin to meet the parts of you that need healing. This is where true growth begins. Not in the noise of productivity, but in the honesty of reflection. You start to rebuild, not from a need to impress, but from a desire to feel whole. You understand that being alone is not the same as being empty. You start to enjoy your own company, to speak kindly to yourself, to stop performing for an audience that was never watching. The silence is not the end. It is the beginning of a deeper relationship with yourself. And once you are no longer afraid of that stillness, you become someone who is no longer afraid to live. Beginning to hear the voice within again. After the noise fades and the urgency quiets down, something subtle begins to emerge. A voice, not the loud one of fear or the echo of other people's expectations, but something quieter, more honest. It has always been there beneath the pressure, beneath the distractions. But when you are constantly performing, pleasing, fixing, that voice gets buried. Only in stillness can it rise again. This is the voice of your intuition, your inner knowing, the part of you that remembers who you are before the world told you who to be. Listening to this voice is not always easy. It often speaks softly and without guarantees. It may tell you to rest when the world demands movement. It may ask you to walk away from things that look perfect on the outside but feel wrong on the inside. And it will rarely align with the timelines others expect from you. But it is the voice that brings you home. The more you listen, the more you realize how often you have overridden it to avoid discomfort or please others. This is the beginning of true alignment. Not with goals or images, but with your own inner rhythm. You start to make choices that feel right, even if they don't look right to everyone else. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You begin to notice what energizes you and what drains you. And you start building a life around what's real, not what's impressive. The voice within is not always loud, but it is always true. And the more you trust it, the more grounded you become. Not because you have all the answers, but because you finally started asking the right questions. Freedom from the script life told you to follow. There is a script many of us follow without realizing it. A timeline that tells us when we should achieve, marry, succeed, settle. It is rarely spoken directly, but it's everywhere in conversations and family traditions, in the quiet comparisons we make with people our age. This script can feel like a map, but often it becomes a cage. You begin measuring your life not by how it feels, but by how it looks. Not by who you are, but by how you match a version of success that was never really yours. The problem with following this script is that it keeps you disconnected from your own timing. It pushes you to rush what should unfold slowly, or to stay stuck where you've already outgrown. It makes you chase experiences because you're supposed to have them, not because you truly want them. And worst of all, it makes you feel behind, like everyone else is moving forward while you are standing still. But life is not a race, and the people you compare yourself to are often comparing themselves to someone else. The truth is, we each have a different rhythm, a different set of lessons, and a different unfolding. You are not late. You are simply on your path, and it does not need to look like anyone else's. Letting go of the script is one of the most liberating acts you can do. It allows you to write a life that is honest instead of impressive, meaningful instead of predictable. You begin to live in the present instead of performing for the future. And in that space, you find not just peace, but power. From here, life doesn't restart. It finally begins truthfully. When you stop living according to the roles you were handed and the timelines you were taught, something remarkable happens. Life does not restart, but it begins again. This time with truth. Not the polished truth you tell others, but the quiet, honest truth you tell yourself. You stop asking what will impress people and start asking what makes you feel alive. You no longer rush to meet expectations because you finally see how many of them were never yours to carry. This beginning does not arrive with grand changes. It arrives with small shifts. You say no without guilt. You rest without shame. You spend time with people who feel safe, not just familiar. You choose what nourishes you, not what distracts you. This is not the life you were told to build. It is the one that builds itself when you stop interfering with your own alignment. It takes time to live this way. It takes unlearning, unhooking, and unbecoming everything that kept you stuck. But in the process, you grow roots. You become steady, not because everything is certain, but because you have nothing left to prove. You stop performing and begin participating. You stop chasing meaning and begin experiencing it. This is not a restart. It is a return to what you've always known, but were too afraid to trust. A return to the self you buried under survival. And from this place you live, not for validation, not for image, but for what is real. And what is real finally feels enough. Healing is not just personal. It's a journey with others. Healing is often seen as a solitary path, something you do alone in silence away from others. And while solitude is sometimes necessary, true healing rarely happens in isolation. We are relational beings. Much of our pain was created in connection, and much of our healing will happen the same way. The wounds left by judgment, rejection, or abandonment often require the presence of acceptance, safety, and connection to fully mend. You may learn to love yourself alone, but it is often in the presence of others that this love is tested, refined, and deepened. Someone's kindness might show you where you still hold mistrust. A gentle boundary from a friend might teach you how to set your own. The way someone listens without fixing might help you feel worthy, not because you are perfect, but because you are human. Relationships, when safe and conscious, become mirrors. They reflect not only who we are, but who we are becoming. We are not meant to heal in performance pretending to be okay, nor are we meant to carry our healing as a burden we must hide. Vulnerability shared in the right places becomes strength. When we show up honestly, we give others permission to do the same. We start creating spaces that feel less like judgment and more like home. Healing with others does not mean depending on them to fix us. It means allowing connection to be part of the process. Letting people in, even when we're not fully healed, is not a weakness. It is a courageous act of trust. And through that trust, we grow together, letting go in love, loving without control, connecting without losing yourself. Letting go in love is one of the hardest things we can learn. We are taught that love means holding on, fighting, proving our worth through sacrifice. But love built on control is not love. It is fear disguised as care. When we try to possess, shape, or save someone, we often lose ourselves in the process. True love is not about merging into another person. It is about staying whole while choosing to connect. You can love deeply and still let someone breathe. You can care fully without needing to control their every move. This does not mean detachment. It means trust. It means allowing space within the relationship for both people to grow. When you let go of the need to be chosen constantly, you begin to choose yourself in a new way. You no longer love to earn love. You love because it's who you are. Letting go in love is also about boundaries. It is knowing when to stay and when to walk away. It is realizing that preserving your peace is not abandonment, but respect for yourself and for the other. When we let go of needing a relationship to complete us, we open the door to healthier loved one that is based on freedom, not fear. Connection does not require control. Presence does not require possession. You can be committed without being consumed. And in that balance, love becomes something safer, deeper, and more alive. Letting go does not end love. Sometimes it is the only way love can truly begin. Letting go is not a departure, but a return. A return to yourself, to your true rhythm, to relationships free from the weight of expectation. When you stop forcing, stop proving, and stop seeking outside of yourself, you begin to truly live not from fear or lack, but from wholeness, stillness, and authenticity. And from that place, every connection, every dream, everything meant for you will finally find its way.